Hey guys, today I want to do a great story. It's probably one of the best, my favorite expat stories. And I was going to do two videos, and I was going to do one on being yourself in the Philippines or being me in the Philippines. But then I decided to do this story instead, my favorite expat story, because the two of them kind of mix together. I'm going to try to mix the two of these together, okay, because they do tie in together a little bit. When I come over here, one of the first things I wanted to do was to be myself. And we've had this talk before in the past a little bit, and I want to touch on this a lot more because I think it's kind of important. But I also got this great story I want to share. One of the things I want to do is to be myself over here. And when I get over here, that's probably the best part about being an expat is you can be yourself over here. And like we talked about in the past, you can reinvent yourself and become the person that you want to be in your heart. And I was lucky enough when I first got over here to meet somebody like that. And, back home he couldn't be himself. He was judged. he was disliked, and he did some kind of crazy, wild, stupid things that probably affected him a lot back home, and people were kind of unforgiving about that. And he was being himself, but they weren't good things, but people couldn't forgive him for those things. And when he got over here, he was able to be himself and do that over here. And when I got over here, despite the fact that he was different than me, I learned a lot from him. And it was a friend of mine, his name was Mike. I spoke about him before. He was one of my best friends over here. And unfortunately, I didn't have much time with him over here. And he was also from my hometown. But one of the things I learned about him, and he had like this childlike quality, and he was always fun to be around. And him and I had kind of similar personalities, but we lived different lives. Like I lived a more, I don't know, I wouldn't call it like kind of a Puritan life, more to his life. He was like wild, outgoing, womanizer, and I'm just the opposite. You know what I mean? And he loved that lifestyle all his life, and back home it had kind of caught up with him and, slapped him in the back of the head and said, behave. And he didn't want to behave because he had that childlike quality about him where he just wanted to be that young boy at 17, 18, 19 years old again, and he was 72 years old. And when I was with Mike was from my hometown, and he was one of the first expats I met over here. And I think I told the story where we met once, and then he waited in the mall for me to meet me again because he lost my phone number. And he waited at the mall for like about 5 or 6 days or something till he could find me, till I went in the mall again. So he was walking around the mall always looking for me. So anyway, we're walking to the mall, and we meet, and that's how we got connected, and we started hanging out and having barbecues together, and he invited me over to his house and everything. But one day we got together, and we decided that we were going to go up to Manila for something. I can't remember what we went up there for. We just went up there, I think, for fun, or maybe it was to go to the Veterans Administration or something like that. Anyway, we got off in Baclaran, near Baclaran Church, and it was my idea kind of, but I started like doing a rap song about Mike, because me and Mike, we both have like this childlike thing, like we just do things just for fun, we did things to just kind of razz each other, or just for out of pure craziness. We'd be walking down the street and just bust out singing. So I started rapping, and I can't redo the rap on here, cause, but it was a funny rap, and it was a funny rap I made up about Mike. And Mike started doing the and he's doing that, and I'm doing the rapping, and it was perfect. We were like perfect. It was perfect the way we did it. We're walking down the street, and we got these people that are looking at us. Some people were following us down the street because I'm doing I'm like kind of skipping along, and Mike's kind of skipping along, and we're just kind of walking by Baclaran Church and skipping down the street. And my girlfriend's looking at us like we're both mentally ill or something like that. But she's laughing, and everybody's cracking up laughing, and we're having a good time doing it. Thing lasted about 4 minutes, and afterwards, me and Mike couldn't stop laughing, and it's probably one of the best memories I have in the Philippines, overall, one of my best expat memories. And unfortunately, it was probably like about maybe, I think it was about 2.5 months after that, or 2 months later, Mike passed away. His pacemaker failed and he died. And I lost a great friend after that. But I learned so much from Mike because Mike was himself. You know, he was himself. You know, he learned to be himself. And he had a talk with me one time, and he says, you know, Steve, you might not like things about my life. And he basically told me he liked being around women all the time. And, you know, I says, you know, Mike, I love you. You're from my hometown. And I says, you're going to be you, and I'm going to be me. And I says, you know, I'm not Christian, and you're not. You know, I says, but, you know, I says, God bless you, man. I says, I love you, and, you know, we're good friends. And, you know, and it was funny because I've talked about this in the past a little bit. He grew up in the home that I had kids that I had fostered and mentored back home from. It was on Garfield Street in Lawrence, and he was from there. And he also got baptized in St. Patrick's Church in Lawrence. So it was just kind of funny, you know, being around him because we had so many connections, and he knew people. And I actually knew a firefighter that was related to him back in Lawrence that was related to him. And before I came here, he was telling me that he had a cousin or an uncle or something like that was over here. So I already heard about Mike already before I even came here in a conversation with one of the firefighters back home. You know, so it was kind of really strange that I actually met the guy when I got here, and he happened to be in the same town that I decided to live in. And that guy, man, I'll tell you, in the 3 months I was with him, I learned how to live life. You know, like just to be myself. That's what I learned from him. Not to carouse around with women. I didn't, you know, I didn't want to go that route. But I mean, I learned how to live life. You know, like me and Mike could sit down and we could laugh, and we could have a good time, and we would laugh. Let me tell you, me and Mike would laugh. You know, and Mike could be serious sometimes too. But the best quality about him was that childlike quality that he carried all the way up until he was 72 years old and passed away. And, you know, some of us tend to lose that childlike quality, and I carry that with me. You know, anybody that knows me knows I like to joke around, and I like to laugh and smile. And it's just me, you know, it's just me. And I like to, you know, share a good laugh with somebody every once in a while and enjoy it, you know. And a lot of people over here, I'm not sure what happened to them, and I kind of feel bad for them because I see people over here and they're always so serious. You know, they're so grumpy and you know, they hold that like a sense of pride. Like, I'm going to be grumpy the rest of my life. I don't care about nobody, and you know, that's the way they are. You know, and I kind of feel bad for those people because, you know, here's your chance, man. You know, here's your chance. This is your second life. Maybe it's your third or fourth. But you know what? This is probably going to be your last for many of us. You know, I mean, I'm lucky enough if I want to reinvent myself again and, you know, go someplace else or do that, which I have no plans on doing because I love it here. But who knows what life's going to bring you? You don't know. But I see these guys over here, and some of them are in the 70s, some are in their 60s. And some of them have learned to, you know, live life and have a good time, and you know, and they do. I mean, we had a friend here. His name was James Stewart, Jimmy Stewart. You know, and Jimmy, awesome guy, and you could laugh with him too. And I didn't get to know Jimmy as much. I've just met him at the mall a few times, but you know, we could laugh, we could joke, you know, we could smile together. And I think a lot of us today, we've forgotten that in life. You know, and we bring these political things and conspiracy theory crap and all this stuff along with us, and that seems to be the conversation with a lot of people. And I rather laugh, man. You know, like, there's nothing you can do about any of this other stuff. We can't change it. You know, any of the stuff that's going on in the world, we can't change it. There's nothing we can do about it. So why worry about it? You know, why deal with all that stuff and all those issues, and just throw them over your shoulder, man, and just leave them there, because let life be life, man. Life is meant to be happy. It's meant to be lived, and I like to keep reminding people about this every once in a while. Be you. Be you. The real you. The you that you want to be. And have a good laugh, man. Have a good laugh. Let those childlike qualities come back out. People will love you for it. I guarantee you, like we have good laughs around the house sometimes. I always joke with my girlfriend, the kids, and stuff like that. I am who I am, and some people might not like it, and that's their issue. It's not mine. It's their issue, If people don't like me for who I am now, I don't even worry about it, because it's life, and you only got one shot. Make it your life. Don't just make it about you, make it about other people too. Help out other people. Help them. Give to other people. Things like that. Be a good person too. That's one thing I could say about Mike. Mike was a good guy. He was a good guy. Overall, he would help people. He used to have pig roasts for people that lived in these squatters areas. He'd go down there because he had enough money each month. He'd buy a couple of pigs and buy a whole bunch of soda or something like that, or iced tea. He'd tell people, you guys put it all together and I'll come down and we'll have a big pig roast. And he was telling me about this stuff one time, and I was like, wow, a whole squatters area? He said, yeah. He says, yeah, you get a big full pig, do the whole thing. And I was like, wow, Mike, that's pretty good. That's pretty cool, because the guy had a heart. He had a heart. He probably had one of the biggest hearts that I've seen in a lot of people, next to my dad. And Mike, in some ways, as far as his heart went, he reminded me a lot of my dad, in that sense that Mike had a big heart and he loved people, and I remember when he passed away, we had to call up his family and stuff like that and tell them, about Mike passing away, and it was kind of traumatic for me and for his family and everybody involved, and I think everybody looked back at Mike though, like about his childlike qualities and the way he loved people, and that he could sit down and have a talk with you, be serious, or he'd be joking, But he was funny. He was the funniest Irish guy I ever met, He was just like the greatest guy in the world. But he taught me so much. And I was lucky that I met him for the first, in the first 6 months of coming over here, that I met him. And I knew where I was headed, but he helped me get there. And he helped me in more ways than one, because of that, And that's why I want to kind of put these two videos together, because I was just going to do a video about that experience of walking by McLaren Church, but there was so much more to that I had to kind of run these two videos together about, learning to be you, because Mike was all about that, and it was just a great experience getting to know that guy, and having to both not grow up, but I lived in Lawrence for 20 years, almost 20 years, and I look back at that, and Lawrence is probably not the greatest town to live in, but I did love a lot of people there, and I learned a lot from living there too. But one thing I don't miss about New England and the United States is that you could not be yourself. You couldn't be yourself. And that's the thing I can be here. And it's probably one of the greatest things about the Philippines that I learned, is that people let you be yourself. If you notice here, and I not that I agree with like a lot of some of the stuff that goes on in the world today, but I'm just saying, like, people here, they're accepted for whatever they want to be here. And people don't poke fun of them, or they don't say anything to them. They just let you be who you want to be, for the most part. And it's just one of the things I notice about the Filipino people here, that they accept you. And for me, I always want to be this decent, kind person that wanted to help people. And in the United States, people would always poke fun of you for certain things about you, about your qualities or something like that. If they didn't like something, they always had to give their 2 cents worth. And over here, you don't get that. People are always trying to correct you. about being politically correct or whatever back home. You don't get that here. You know, they were trying to correct you about, you know, you're not like them and you should be more like them. And if you're not like them, you know, then you're wrong. And I don't get that here. You know, it's about being you. So guys, when you get over here, be you, you know, and don't forget those childlike qualities, guys. Don't lose those. Don't lose those. Don't ever lose those, guys. You know, if it's the one thing I can tell you, don't lose those childlike qualities. That zest for adventure. You know, I remember as a child I had like these adventures and stuff like that, going on adventures and stuff, and I never lost that even to this day. And here I am, almost 60 years old. I'll be like that when I'm 70, or if I live to be 80 or 90, I'll still have that sense of adventure, and I'll still remember Mike and have that childlike quality. No matter what, I'm not going to lose that. You know, and don't you guys either. God bless, guys. Take care.